Okay. Hey, hi! I'm still laughing at myself because I literally don't know what I'm doing. I might appear to know what I'm doing, but this phone is literally sitting against a can of beans right now on top of a pile of books. I honestly wake up most days and I feel like I'm winging it. I just wanted to put that out there. This is what I wanted to give you all at the end of the 6 weeks. Because I won't be starting the actual Patreon sign up subscribe thing yet. I need to finish my website first. That's also a can of beans story related. So until then, I wanted to give you a way that you could maybe read your own chart in a simple way, accessible way. I will still drop in the major transits, like anything major, you know, the new moons, the full moon, whenever a planet moves into another sign and transits through. And all I'll say is there's a new moon in Cancer. Happy new moon in Cancer. Maybe I'll give a little affirmation about Cancer to tune into. But then you'll be able to go and find where Cancer is in your chart, and then you'll be able to read maybe where this is coming up for you. Maybe it won't be coming up for you. That's the whole thing with these 6 weeks. It's always been a spectrum. It's just all about themes, and like themes are literally everywhere in life. Like, you know, they're not just storybook things. It's our lives. It's the themes of our lives, the days of our lives. A little bit delirious from being all sick. And I've overwhelmed myself with my to-do list, so that's probably the hysteria you're hearing. Okay, 2 charts. I'm not trying to be confusing. I just want to let you know that there are 2 versions of reading a chart. And when you put your info into anything, it'll say, do you want to read it in whole sign or do you want to read it in Placidus? And I normally go for whole sign because it's just the most straightforward. And it clarifies things much easier. Very advanced astrologers don't give a shit about that. They can read whatever type they want. But here's the difference. So on the right is my whole sign. You can see my first house is Taurus. My second house is Gemini. My ascendant is at 5 degrees of Taurus. That's where the difference comes in. If you jump over to Placidus, you suddenly see that everything is shifted up a bit. If that makes sense. So like here's the first house now starting at 5 degrees of Taurus and it ends at 5 degrees of Gemini. So it shifts things up a bit. So that doesn't change what sign a planet's in. What it changes is what house it's in. So you can see that I have in my whole sign house, which I've always read about myself, I have Jupiter, Venus, the moon and the sun in the 4th house. Over on my Placidus side, because everything is shifted up and I have such early Leo planets, suddenly Jupiter, Venus and the moon go into my 3rd house and only the sun in my 4th house. So this makes a difference on the read for those planets. I've read both of them. I relate to both of them. So this is the whole thing of cusps. If you are, it's all maths. It's all maths. Shout out to Momsy. It's all maths. If you are closer to 30 degrees of a sign, then you are technically on the cusp of the next sign. And that goes for any planet and also with the houses. So technically Jupiter, the moon and Venus are on the cusp of my 3rd and 4th house, which makes a lot of sense for me because the 3rd house is writing, communication and the mind, and the 4th house is the home and family. So yes, those things are all very dominant in my life. So if I send something, and I'm going to keep it simple from now on, it's not, and you're not going to get the individual voice notes anymore. That's what I'll bring up again when people can pay. But yeah, so if I had to say, hello, happy full moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on the 14th of June soon anyway. You can see the moon getting fuller and fuller. And then that's all I'll say, or maybe I'll give a little meme or something about Sagittarius. And then you would then go off to your chart. Obviously it looks slightly different because I've sent you all your charts on Chani. This is from Cafe Astrology. It's exactly the same. But then you would go off to your chart and you'd be like, okay, where's Sagittarius? And then you'd see Sagittarius there. In Chinese, it'll actually say the word Sagittarius, the ones that I've sent all of you. But there's Sagittarius, little arrow, and then I'll go, oh, hey, that's in my 8th house. That's happening in my 8th house. So that's obviously something to do with 8th house stuff. And then I can also at the same time see that, oh, I already have Black Moon Lilith there. So, okay, whatever is happening at that time of the full moon might spark off my Black Moon Lilith themes for myself. And you can then go and see what Black Moon Lilith is about, read about it for yourself so you can interpret it, like personally for you. And then I would go off and I would see what the 8th house is all about. So on this one, on Chani's designs, which I find really cool, death, mental health, other people's resources. I'm sure you've all gotten to know these as I've done your readings anyway. So, okay, so I think this full moon is going to be a little bit heavier for me than other people that aren't Taurus risings, because it's about these kind of themes. Maybe it'll be more quiet for me. I'll go into my mental health a bit more. Maybe I'll journal a bit. And then here's just some extra, this is very simple, but the houses, just like the signs and the planets, are about so many things, such a spectrum of things. So then I can go to 8th house here as well. This is a book I'm reading at the moment and a PDF she provided, and she goes into more detail. It's also actually about your sexual drives, your deep emotions, and your shared resources, because for me the 8th house always just brings up intimacy, on any level intimacy. So then you can see sexual drives, emotions, shared things, other people's resources, Chani says here as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a deep, transformative, important, powerful house, and something we shouldn't, in our lives, I would hope that we have delved deep into each of the 12 houses through our experiences and through our learning and through our willingness to dive into our own lives. So yeah, then I'll use that full moon, and now this is getting into like divination processes and like meditational, very spiritual things. This is how astrology is so spiritual for me, because then on that full moon, I will dive deep into these themes. I will also look up a little bit about Sagittarius energy in general, because that's where the moon is. And of course, I know the moon is about our emotions, our the way we nurture ourselves, the way we feel. So I was going to say it's also to do with our mother. And then Jessica Lanyado goes into that a bit more here, and this is important to me too. When we say mother, father, masculine, feminine, it's not like obviously man and woman. And that's also how I love that astrology comes into my own political beliefs, I guess, that gender is such a spectrum, sexuality is such a spectrum, and astrology feels the same way. So yes, the moon, the 4th house, and Cancer energy can represent mothers, but that's archetypes, not gender roles. So yes, it could be your actual mother, it could be you being a mother, it could be physical like that, literal, but it's really about the archetypal energies. So mother, let's think about that, nurturing, caring, the way we feel cared for, the way we tune into our inner selves, into our body, so that's the archetype more than the heteronormative gender roles. And then, on the other side of Cancer, we obviously have the 10th house, which is Capricorn's natural home, and that goes to the father, but the father archetypes, so it's also private and public, receptive, active, those sorts of energies, and it has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. That's why I've stopped kind of being like, Cancer women are cool, but Cancer men are like, I've stopped doing that too, because it's such a paintbrush swipe over something that's actually really complex and nuanced. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, or if you're not interested at all, then that's fine as well. But yeah, this is a tool to read your own birth charts. I'll keep you up to date on the updates. I'm sure you'll see on social media too if you follow astrology accounts. The outer planets, so anything Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, those are the outer planets. So when they move, it's a big deal. Like when Jupiter moved into Aries like a month ago, that was a big deal, because Jupiter only moves signs every year. So it's a 12-year transit. So, it was last in Aries 12 years ago, and so on and so forth. So, that's a bigger, kind of more rare event. But of course, the moon moves signs every 2 days, the sun every month, Mercury every 2 to 3 weeks, and then Venus, Mars about a month or 6 weeks. So yeah, I'll keep up to date on the major ones and on the new and full moons, and then you can go ahead and see if that's coming out in your life, or if any of those themes come out in your life. And then to go further, when people start paying, I'll start giving practical ways to work with each of these energies of the signs, what the planets signify, and what the houses mean. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the little lesson. School's out. I can't help but being a teacher, and I'll tell you why. Right here, Jupiter, right next to my Venus, right next to my moon, right next to my sun. Jupiter rules teaching. So does Mercury, although Mercury is more student. It's making an aspect to Jupiter as well. So this is a blessing for me. It makes me a student and a teacher naturally, and able to share the things that I learn, because this is a 60-degree aspect, and that's a nice aspect. That's very nice. On the other hand, the one that's more challenging for me is this young square from Scorpio Pluto to all of my Leo placements. Maybe not so much my sun, because it's 90 degrees, so it's more like all these wonderful ones. They give me all these blessings, but then I constantly have the square to Pluto, which makes me always almost obsessive with my transformation process and my healing process, and yeah, creates some other challenges for me that I won't go into right now, because now we're getting way off topic. You can see why one can talk about astrology for hours, because that's literally just one thing in my birth chart, and technically I don't know what the maths of it is. I suppose there's roughly 15 to 20 placements. They can either be in one of 12 signs, so that's 15 times 12, and then they can be in one of 12 houses, so what's that, 15 times 12 times 12? Yeah, I'll have to ask my mum. And I'm just sending out all of the kind of energy that you need right now, whether that's like positive, or it's realistic, or it's healing, or it's just like neutral. I'm sending it to you. Just know that whatever you need is coming out. And thanks for being my first 12 in the 11th house exaltation. In about a month or so, I'll check in again about Saturn, because obviously it's just gone retrograde on Saturday, and especially for the people that are in their Saturn return, I'll send a list of where everyone's Saturn is. The people who have it in Aquarius are still in their Saturn return. It ends in March next year. You know, this will be a really important final installment for you guys, so I'll send that out. And even for everyone else who isn't in Aquarius, Saturn will still be transiting Aquarius in your chart, so go look where Aquarius is in your chart, look at what it's about. You'll know the lessons that you've been learning since December 2020. Okay, I'm going now. I'll go put the beans back in the cupboard. Love you guys.